Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to go over different types of home types that you can find on the coast, specifically homes that we most commonly get asked about, which would be oceanfront homes, typically with a view. There are some that will not have a view. We'll get into that. Waterfront homes that aren't on the ocean, so homes that are waterfront on a lake or a river, which there are quite a few on the Oregon coast. Homes with a large lot that can accommodate like an RV or possibly have a shop. Homes on a budget, new construction homes, retirement areas, and then finally lot and land. I'm going to go over all these categories. I'm going to give you a handful of different examples with homes that are currently on the market, such as this home right now that's in Brookings. And I'm going to show you where these homes are at and kind of give you some price points so I give you a feel for what these homes are typically going to go for. All that starts now. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, or if you're new to this channel, living on the Oregon coast and you'd like to know more about what it's like to live on the Oregon coast, if you'd like to see more videos about what it's like to live on the Oregon coast, make sure and subscribe to this channel. And if you're somebody that's thinking about taking the next steps and moving to the Oregon coast, I'm a licensed broker in the state of Oregon. As much as we like making these videos, we'd love to help you move here. So you can call us, text us, email us, or you can even click the link below in the description of this video if you want to hop into our calendar and schedule a Zoom call with us. All right, so in this video, we're going to start out with location. Like I mentioned, I've got a handful of different categories for you here. We're going to start with oceanfront because that's one of the most common ones. People always want to know, where can they find an oceanfront home? What are those prices like? What does that look like? There's a lot of places you can find oceanfront, as you might imagine, in Oregon. Not quite the same as Washington, if you're familiar with Washington's coast. There's also a lot of places where you might probably expect to find oceanfront homes, but you're actually not going to find oceanfront for one reason or another. Or you just might not find those views, which is the main reason why people want oceanfront. They want to be able to see the ocean. In some cases, your views are going to be obstructed. So we're going to start here from north to south. Oregon coast, Astoria is considered part of the Oregon coast, although you won't find coastal views in Astoria. As you can see right here, is not actually on the coast. That would be Warrenton over here. So a lot of views of water in Astoria. Astoria, most of it sits up on a hill here. So a lot of the homes here are going to have great views of the bay and of the river, but no waterfront homes. The northernmost waterfront homes are actually going to be right about here, Sunset Beach down into Surf Pines. No residential homes right here where the mouse is. So we're starting right here. I do have one on my list that's currently on the market that we'll look at here in just a moment. It's going to be a lot of homes. There's hundreds of homes from Sunset Beach here to Gearhart. However, only a handful of the waterfront homes are actually going to have water views. Most of them are obstructed by a very small dune along the coast here. Some of the homes that are a block or two back have a little bit more elevation to give you views, and I'll get into that in just a moment, but that'll be the northernmost place where you can potentially find some waterfront views. Beyond that, you're going to be looking at Seaside. A lot of waterfront homes in Seaside, although I will say you don't see these homes come to market that often. Seaside does have restrictions on short-term rentals. Short-term rentals do typically increase the value and demand for homes. You can't do short-term rentals everywhere on the Oregon coast. There's a lot of different rules. Depends on city, county, HOAs, things like that. But for Seaside does have some density rules as far as how many short-term permits they can give out, but they do give out quite a few, and a lot of these homes are going to have short-term permits on the west side of this river, the Nicanacum River right here. So you will find a lot of waterfront ocean views. You are going to be at ocean level, so there's no elevation here in Seaside, one of the most susceptible areas to tsunamis, if that's something that you're worried about. There are some new homes that are set back here that have great ocean views, not oceanfront though, as you can see. Just south of Seaside, your next oceanfront homes are going to be in Cannon Beach. This is going to be the most expensive part of the Oregon coast. There's a lot of oceanfront homes here, also oceanfront homes that have a little bit of elevation, 30, 40, 50 feet, so you may be able to get out of some of those tsunami zones. Average price point around Cannon Beach for these homes going to be getting close to $1 million. Again, this is going to be the most expensive part of the Oregon coast. Seaside, you can find homes in Seaside for $600,000-700,000 around this area. Waterfront, though, is also going to be right about $1 million. If you get waterfront, the average home in Cannon Beach is about $1 million. If you get waterfront in Cannon Beach, it's going to be about twice that. Not many homes for sale in Cannon Beach. They do have short-term permits there as well. They have a limited number of permits. Those are highly coveted. So homes don't sell very often. There's not a whole lot of homes that are often on the market. Arch Cape, a small community. You're also going to find a handful of waterfront homes. And then Manzanita. Manzanita is very similar to Cannon Beach. I would just say there's one kind of little difference. If you look at Cannon Beach when you're driving through, you'll notice this. The main drag here, Hemlock Street, runs perpendicular to the ocean. Gives it a little bit of a different feel than Manzanita, where your main drag, I said perpendicular, I meant parallel, runs parallel to the ocean. Manzanita runs perpendicular, which is right here, Manzanita Avenue, Ocean Avenue, and then Lanita Avenue is kind of like the main drag in Manzanita. So the layout's a little bit different in Manzanita, but you will find some waterfront homes here, although those are mostly going to be at sea level, so no protection there against tsunamis. Beyond that, next place where you're going to find waterfront properties, Rockaway Beach, and these are mostly going to be condos. You find probably more condos in Rockaway Beach, or as many condos in Rockaway Beach as probably anywhere else. And this is going to be one of the more affordable places that you could actually find a waterfront property. You might be able to find something actually closer to about half the price of like an average like Seaside, which again was like $1 million. So Rockaway Beach maybe like around $500,000 or so. For the most part, having a single-family home that's waterfront along the Oregon coast, it's pretty tough to get under $800,000 or $900,000. I've only seen a handful of properties under $800,000 that were single-family homes that were actually waterfront with unobstructed views. Those were in Lincoln City. I'm going to find a handful of properties here in Oceanside and Netarts. I do have a property on my list that I'm going to show you here in Oceanside as well. Beyond that, Pacific City, kind of one of the more up-and-coming, newer towns along the Oregon coast. Going to be the waterfront homes. There's a handful of them right here. They won't have much elevation. They'll pretty much be sea level. Also note though, if you do like views, there's a bunch of homes set back here that are going to be closer to whatever, like 100 feet or something like that, outside of the tsunami range, that have really, really amazing views. Cape Kiwanis State Natural Area, this big hill that everybody climbs when they go to Pacific City. Can't quite tell from this map, but you do have a lot of elevation in this area. So great views all around in Pacific City. Beyond Pacific City, I would say that Lincoln City is probably going to have more oceanfront homes than anywhere else on the Oregon coast. It is one of the more populated areas, especially if you combine some of these towns. And I'm going to do so. Salishan, Glenning Beach, and Lincoln Beach. I'm going to combine this entire area right here together. And you kind of have one long stretch where you're going to find oceanfront homes from Logan Road up here on Road's End. This road right here is going to take us all the way down to Jetty Avenue. This road right here, Jetty Avenue. There is one oceanfront home that's currently listed for sale on Jetty Avenue. And you're going to have at least a road that sort of parallels the ocean for the most part all throughout Lincoln City, all the way down into, this is actually called Salishan right here. This is a resort community. It's a gated community. There's a golf course here. These homes all sit right at ocean level, so you're definitely going to be in the tsunami zone. But some of the most incredible homes right here on this spit, and then really all the way down into getting into Depot Bay, you can find waterfront homes. Now this is going to be a little bit different. You can see the roads here run rather perpendicular rather than parallel, whereas where we were in Lincoln City up here by Road's End, you've got roads that are running so parallel. So you won't have, for that reason, the way the neighborhoods are laid out, you won't have as many waterfront homes down here closer to Lincoln Beach, but there are some. It's a lot more wooded up here too. I'm going to show you some pictures of a listing in Lincoln City here in just a moment. And you'll kind of see it's not as many trees. The lots are really packed in. they're elbow to elbow. Whereas a lot of the lots down here are a little bit larger. You have a lot more trees, and again, it's a lot more wooded down there. So different feel down there in Lincoln Beach. Beyond that, right here in Depot Bay, probably one of the most desirable places for people looking for an oceanfront property that has some elevation. We get inquiries about this area quite a bit. Not a ton of properties here, so not a whole lot that often comes on the market. There are currently a few properties here. This is where everybody goes whale watching. As you can see, the 101 gets real close to the ocean right here. The ocean actually comes in, the surf comes in and actually splashes up onto the 101 from time to time here. It's kind of the only place where the ocean is that close in Oregon. And then you do, kind of like Pacific City, you do also have some elevation over here if you didn't want to be waterfront, but you wanted some ocean views. There's a lot of homes, including some new construction set back here in Depot Bay. Just south of Depot Bay, you're going to find a handful of oceanfront homes between Otter Rock, Ocean Park, Beverly Beach, Agate Beach, all along here, and all the way down into Newport. Sort of similar to Lincoln City, there's a big long stretch of oceanfront homes along here. Your average price point, if you were oceanfront, around the average price point, if you're like average size home, oceanfront in Newport, maybe $800,000 or so. So not quite as expensive as some other places, like a Cannon Beach or maybe even a Seaside, but definitely going to be up there in price. You're also going to find a handful of houses down here in South Beach that are right there, right along. You can see it's really tucked in there along the coastline, just west of the 101. Beyond that, I would say Waldport is probably going to be your best value if you want to be waterfront right here. This little community right here, I think I have one home on my list that's currently on the market that I'll show you. That'll kind of give you an idea of this area. So this is also right about sea level, so no protection there from tsunamis. You can find homes in here that have, for the most part, unobstructed waterfront views in like the mid 500s, maybe 600, something like that. That's and that's for a single family home. You can find condos along the Oregon coast in the 5 to 600s, but 5 to 600 is about as cheap as you'll get for a single family home. I also say Waldport too. Waldport, smaller town, a little bit more of a blue collar town, kind of a contrast to Yachats, which is to me a lot of like art stores, just to give you an idea of like what the vibe is there. It's definitely kind of a polar opposite vibe of Waldport, which is funny because they're so close to each other and seem so similar. Yachats, you can find a lot of waterfront homes north of Yachats right here along this stretch. Also, probably one of the less expensive areas to find waterfront homes. You probably find them in the 700s, and we're talking about like mid-century, 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,200, 1,400 square feet type of thing. And we'll take a look here with satellite. I'll show you kind of like some of the way some of these neighborhoods. As you can kind of see, the way some of these houses and the way some of these streets are laid out. Let me get a little bit closer to Yachats. I think the way they built them was you build the house first and then you build the road next. You build the house, then you figure out how to get to the house. So a lot of these houses have a lot of funky little roads, a lot of easements. You look at some of these houses, you wonder how do you even get to some of these houses. So not exactly a master planned community here north of Yachats, but there are a lot of homes just right here. And these homes are 30, 40, 50 feet, so they have a little bit of elevation. You can see here too, what this is right here, those rocks right there, those are not natural. That's called a riprap. So those are rocks that people had to put there to avoid corrosion. I point that out to you because if you're considering a waterfront home, that is going to probably be a consideration for you. You may have to do some riprap work. What does that look like? At the minimum, usually tens of thousands of dollars. We've sold a couple homes over the past year or so that have had riprap work. One was closer to $100,000. The other one was closer to $200,000. So something to keep in mind if you're looking for this type of property. All right, beyond Yachats. Next place we are going to find actually a lot of oceanfront properties is not going to be in Florence. The reason being, right here, the Siuslaw River, which wraps around a lot of the homes, are just right here on the east side of the Siuslaw River. So you have the river, and I do have a property for sale. It's not my property, it's a listing I have on our list here to show you. That's right on the river, so it'll kind of show you what this looks like. So the river, and then there's a dune here that sort of impedes much of the view. There are some waterfront homes here in Hesida Beach. It's about the only place you're going to find waterfront in Florence. Florence is going to be great for retirement, also great if you are looking for, and I have some homes on the list, lake living. Going to be a lot of lakes, probably more lakes and more lakefront living between Florence and Coos Bay, North Bend, this kind of stretch right here, than anywhere on the coast. Not many waterfront homes on this stretch. As you can see, a lot of this is just park and dunes. If you didn't know, the book and the movie Dune were inspired by the writer's time spent in Florence. So this entire area, if you like off-roading or recreational vehicles, UTVs, ATVs, whatever it may be, this is probably the top place on the coast for you. Also for outdoorsmen, fishing, hunting, the ocean, lakes, rivers, doesn't get any better than this little stretch right here on the Oregon coast. But like I said, you're not going to find any waterfront homes really along this entire stretch. You're going to have to go all the way down to Bandon before you find waterfront homes, which are going to be here off of Beach Loop Road, which is right here. So this stretch right here, and this road goes all the way down, pretty far down here, and then wraps back around. Where is it? Right there. Wraps back around to the 101. Hence the loop. The loop is kind of the 101 all the way up here to Bandon, and then it connects back over here again. So this entire stretch going to be expensive. One of the more expensive parts of the Oregon coast. Going to be about as scenic as anywhere on the Oregon coast. So the kind of distinguishing features of the Oregon coast between like the northern, the central, and the southern Oregon coast are the dramatic rock features. Once you get to the southern Oregon coast, that's where you get all those really, really dramatic rock features. So the homes here that have views are going to have really, really epic views. And then beyond Bandon, really not going to be a whole lot more, just a few stretches of homes. You can find a couple homes actually right here in Ophir. There's just a few on the west side of 101. There is a home right here that's been on and off the market for, I don't know, a long time, as long as like 15 years. I think it's been listed as high as 15 million, as low as 11 million. It's got a helipad. It's about 10,000 square feet. You can probably find it if you want. And then there's a bunch of homes that actually are on the east side of Ophir here along the 101 that have waterfront views, and then that have a little bit of elevation, I should have mentioned as well, 50, 60, 70, 80 feet or so. You do have homes here in Nasika Beach that are right at zero elevation. Beyond that, you'll find a handful of homes in southern Gold Beach. There's a little community right here, a handful of condos too. I do have a condo on my list to show you that's waterfront in Gold Beach. And then beyond that, you have Brookings, which really from Harris Beach State Park Campground, this area right here, Harris Beach, really from here all the way down to California, you have waterfront homes along this road right here, hence the name Ocean View Drive. You can find single family homes. It's going to be tough to find anything in this area under $1 million, at least for a single family home. Find a condo in this area for about $600,000. All of this is also at elevation, so you're not going to have to worry about tsunamis anywhere along here. In fact, that very first picture I showed you at the beginning of this video is from a listing right around here in Brookings. About as good of a picture as I have from my list of listings that I'm going to show you here in just a moment. All right, so we're going to go back north to south, and I'm going to show you a little bit more about these homes, what they look like, what the views look like, and then talk a little bit about the prices real quick. All right, so first one again, north to south. We're going to go back up to Warrenton. This is that place that I mentioned to you that although you have quite a few homes that are waterfront, they don't necessarily all have views because they are impeded by a dune. So this home is in that area right here, right about here. 3-bed, 2-bath, 2,200 square feet, listed at 1.175 by Barbara Maltman with Windermere. So the drone shot, it's hard to tell. It's really subtle. It's not that high. It's just high enough to, like 10 feet, 15 feet, high enough to impede and the view of all of these homes. Now there's homes that are a block back or 2 blocks back that have a little bit more elevation where you can see the ocean, but for the most part, most of these people, most of these homes are not going to be able to see. Some of the like some like the second story windows are going to have like peekaboo views, but that's about it. Here's a view from the back here, so you can kind of get an idea of what you can see. All right, so that was Warrenton. Lincoln City, like I mentioned, is going to have about as many homes, waterfront, as really anywhere on the Oregon coast. So this one is off that road that I initially mentioned by Road's End, Logan Road. And this gives you an idea here. So like I mentioned, you've got this road that runs parallel, and you've got a couple roads through Lincoln City that run parallel for a long time. And you've got these houses, like you mentioned, that are really tucked up against each other. Not a whole lot of trees until you get into Lincoln Beach. Like I mentioned, just south of Salishan, it's a lot more wooded there. So different feel down there in Lincoln Beach than it is in Road's End in the northern part of Lincoln City. All right, next we're going to go to Tillamook. This is actually closer to Oceanside. So Tillamook, as you can see, Tillamook is inland. Tillamook is probably the least coastal feeling town that's maybe considered, along the Oregon coast. So this property is listed as Tillamook, but it's actually, like I mentioned, right around here in Oceanside. So any properties there are going to have amazing views like this, and typically have a little bit of elevation too. It's also pretty quiet along that section of the coast. So this is getting in just under $1 million, 3-bed, 3-bath, 1,784 square feet. One thing I would say about this property too in this area, you can see it's not on the 101. So people traveling north to south along this yellow line right here, you're not getting the through traffic in this area. And there's no big draws. There's no kind of big attractions. There's no real reason for people that are heading from the south to the north to pull off and head this way. So it's a pretty quiet section of the Oregon coast. All right, next property, we're going to go to Florence. Oh, this is pending. This was active just this morning. So it just went pending here. So this is what I mentioned about in Florence, you really don't have many homes that are going to have waterfront views for this very specific reason of the Siuslaw River right there. You can see it in this picture right here. And then there's the dune that I mentioned. So that's why so many of the homes in Florence are not going to be able to see the ocean. But, for a lot of people, I mean, this is going to give you the same effect. This is going to suffice. And I picked out this home, too, because to have this kind of water view on a home that doesn't appear to be too old. I'm not sure how old it is. Built in 99. There it is. For under $600,000, not too common. So it looks like it's been on the market for 30 days. Actually, kind of a surprise that it's been on the market for that long. So you can see, like I mentioned, there are a lot of homes in Florence that sit along the river right here, but you won't get oceanfront views until you get up here into Heceta Beach in the north. All right, next property, Arch Cape. All right, well, we're going back north over here towards Cannon Beach. This is just south of Cannon Beach. Arch Cape, little tiny community right here. So really quiet area. 1.15 million, 3-bed, 1-bath, 1,167 square feet, built in 55, but it looks like everything's been recently updated. Got a little bit of elevation, as you can see, kind of tucked back there in the woods. And this is what I was saying earlier. Not everything necessarily that's kind of considered waterfront is going to always have waterfront views or have unobstructed views. This one, maybe you've got 40% views, something like that. So some pretty good views. It's always better to have a tree obstructing your view than another house, too. All right, next one on the list is going to be Pacific City. This is a new listing. Like I mentioned, most of Pacific City is going to be right at ocean level, with the exception of if you go back up and there's a hill um, that's going to have a lot of houses and some new construction where you'll find maybe 50, 60, 70, 80 feet of elevation. So 5 bed, a little bit bigger. You don't see too many 5 beds on the Oregon coast. 3 bath, 2,634 square feet. This is built in 99, listed at 1.55. Right there on the ocean. Probably going to be walking distance from Pelican Brewery, which is kind of the big draw. There's that Haystack Rock. You got a great view of the Haystack Rock. So these oceanfront views are probably about as good as anybody might possibly want. Pelican Brewery, kind of where everybody goes to, is right up here. And here's those hills that I mentioned here. You can find some houses right back here that have amazing views. All right, next on the list, going to go over to Manzanita. Like I mentioned, just south of Cannon Beach. And going to be a little less expensive than Cannon Beach. This is 3 bed, 2 bath, 1,854 square feet, listed at 1.65 million. That sounds about right. It's just shooting from the hip. I feel like home prices in Manzanita are maybe like 80% of what they are in Cannon Beach. So if a waterfront home in Cannon Beach, probably about 2 million. Same home in Manzanita, probably going to be about 1.6. This home was built in 2000. All right, next time we're going to go to Newport. Newport was that area I mentioned. That there's quite a few homes, reference back to the map, that you're going to find all along this entire stretch, because you've got not just Newport, but you also have Otter Rock, Beverly Beach, Agate Beach right here. Like I mentioned, kind of all along here. And this Quinn Head Lighthouse, you can see in this picture, going to be right out here. So you have homes that kind of all along here. So there's a lot of waterfront homes that you can find in Newport. This one is a 3 bed, 1 bath, 1,000 square feet, listed at 900,000. So kind of like I mentioned, in the bigger towns, tough to find something that's a single family home under $1 million. If you do, it's probably going to be around 1,000 feet, 1,200 square feet, mid-century, something like that is typically what you'd see. I'm going to go to Neskowin, and got a condo here for you in Neskowin. Had to pick out at least a few condos. 3 bed, 2 bath, 1,280 square feet. Neskowin, I didn't mention actually Neskowin. Didn't mention Neskowin on this map. It is a little hidden gem just south of Pacific City, right off the 101. So if you're driving on the 101, you got to get off to get into Neskowin. Otherwise, you're not going to see it. $800 monthly HOA fee. It's a relatively high fee. It's about as high as I've seen. I assume that's going to cover your exterior as well, like your roof and your siding. It's been on the market for 57 days. So this is this rock work. This is riprap work that I mentioned. So little tiny, a really quaint, nice little community in Neskowin. So again, condos. This is a newer. So this is maybe a little bit more upscale condo. You can, like I said, you can probably get in around 500 or 600 in some places. A nicer condo gonna be closer to 800. All right, just got a couple more here. Yachats that I mentioned. That was that place that I mentioned. The layout is kind of funky, and you're gonna have like a lot of properties that have easements. So here we have a 2 bed, 2 bath, 1,056 square feet, listed at 1,050,000. Built in 65. This is what a lot of the homes in Yachats look like. Mid-century, 1,200 square feet, 3 bed, 2 bath. Got a little bit of elevation, so you're not right at sea level. And for whatever reason, a lot of these houses just don't often tend to have updates. So this is kind of the standard. This is the typical for Yachats. I had one buyer refer to Yachats as grandma's house. All the houses here remind him of his grandma's house. That's about right. Yeah. So that's what you're going to get there in Yachats. And like I said, though, I have seen some things closer to like high 700s, low 800s. Though that price right there at just over $1 million, maybe a little bit higher than you might typically see. Okay. We have, I found this one in Florence. That's right, we'll go back to Florence. And I wanted to point this one out because it's not waterfront, like I mentioned, but you do have a water view. So if you get back up a little bit of elevation, some of the homes in Florence, like this one, get enough elevation, you're going to actually be able to see the ocean in Florence. What's that going to cost? $979,000. It is a 5-bed, 3-bath, 3,378 square foot house built in 2018. So big house, new house, under $1 million. Kind of got some peekaboo water views. All right. Here's a condo I mentioned in Gold Beach. I think this has been on the market for a while. 2-bed, 1-bath, 900 square feet. Handful of condos like this in Gold Beach. This is the southern part of Gold Beach, so you do have a panoramic, sweeping views. These units are a little bit older, not quite as updated, and $425,000. So $425,000. That is about as inexpensive as you are going to get anywhere on the Oregon coast and be waterfront. So that's why I chose to show you that one. If you're on a budget and you want to be waterfront, that's what you're going to be looking at. And then just south of Gold Beach, I found one in Brookings. Like I mentioned, all of Brookings is going to be elevation. It's going to look like this. You got these dramatic rock formations. Everything kind of sits back up on a cliff. So one thing to kind of note about that, if you want like beach access, if you want to be able to walk down to the beach and put your toes in some sand, then there's not that many places like that in Brookings. You're going to have to probably look pretty hard at Brookings to find that type of property. So this one listed at $549,000, 2-bed, 2-bath, 1,157 square feet, $500 monthly HOA though, built in 1989. I've seen a handful of these condos on and off the market, so you can usually find something like this in Brookings, kind of regardless of the time of the year. All right, 2 more waterfront properties here. One, Gold Beach. This is going to be one that is closer to Ophir that I mentioned, that massive property that has the helipad. It's kind of around there. So this one, 3-bed, 4-bath, 2,262 square feet, built in 95, listed at $975,000, which is probably about right. A house of this size, built about 30 years ago, that has unobstructed waterfront views, usually going to come in right under $1 million. Great area too, quiet area of the coast, not super close to shopping, but very picturesque, beautiful part of the coast. And then finally, we'll go to that one that I showed you a picture of in the very beginning. Brookings, 3-bed, 4-bath, 3,349 square feet, built in 2022. So this is a new build that has not yet been occupied. So it's been on Zillow for 16 days. I think it might have been on Zillow before then. Oftentimes the builders are going to list them well in advance of being finished, with the hopes of getting under contract. Listed by Marie Curtis with Remax, Coast, and Country. And the reason why I picked this one, these views, this view right here is really about as good, in my opinion, as it gets on the entire Oregon coast. So this build, these views are just simply incredible. Not a whole lot of properties like this on the Oregon coast, quite frankly. Modern luxury oceanfront, multiple 7 figures. Just don't see that a whole lot on the Oregon coast. Probably pretty typical property for a lot of spots in California, not so much so here in Oregon. All right, we're going to look at a few more properties that are going to be lakefront and talk to you a little bit about lakefront. So the thing about lakefront, one thing that might surprise you about lakefront is when you're comparing properties compared to waterfront, there's usually not a whole lot of difference in price. So in other words, if you took this exact property and put it, wherever like the closest waterfront would be, wouldn't probably be a whole lot different. 6-bed, 5-bath, 4,678 square feet on 10 Mile Lake, built in 64, listed at $1.2 million. It is on 8 acres. 10 Mile Lake. If you're not familiar, if that doesn't ring a bell, that is going to be in that area that I mentioned to you. That's probably going to be the best stretch if you want to be around lakes. 10 Mile Lake is right here. This town called Lakeside, so right in between North Bend and Coos Bay and Reedsport, just south of Florence. So again, Florence to North Bend, Coos Bay, lakes, dunes, rivers, outdoorsman's paradise. So that's what you're typically going to be looking at. You're still going to be looking around seven figures, unless the home is 1,000 to 1,200 square feet in mid-century on a smaller lot. You're going to be looking around seven figures for most lakefront properties. This one is actually going to be riverfront in Astoria, along the Columbia River. A little bit of a different view. 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,664 square feet, listed at $640,000, built in 2012. A lot of stuff in Astoria is built about 100 years before that, so you don't find a whole lot of new builds in Astoria. Kind of one of the more unique properties, and that's probably about what you would expect for about 1,600 square feet in a largest town on a lake, on a river. Probably going to be around mid-600s. All right, so we got three more here. Lincoln City. So you got to go to Lincoln City. This lake in Lincoln City, Devil's Lake, going to be one of the bigger lakes along the Oregon coast. And some people are looking for that lakefront living, but also want to be close to the ocean and kind of have the best of both worlds here. So 4 beds, 2-bath, 2,324 square feet, listed at $849,000, built in 1970. You can see from this view right here, these lake views, there are a lot of homes in this area on the lake. And again, referring back to the map, where is the lake relative to the ocean? It's right there. So you're just a couple minutes away from the ocean. You're not like really, really far inland. All right, 2 more homes here, and then I'll talk to you real quickly about the rest of the things on our list. Siltcoos. So this is over by Florence. 3-bed, 3-bath, 2,735 square feet, listed at $799, built in 2005, $98 annual HOA fee. Very similar to the lake that we just looked at in Lincoln City. Large lake. You're going to find a lot of houses like this. I guess one difference here maybe with the lakes that you're going to find around Florence or Dune City, you might find more homes that are on like 8 acres. I'm not going to find that as much around Lincoln City. And then let's see, finally, what do we have last here? North Bend. So North Bend, Coos Bay area, 3-bed, 2-bath, 2,052 square feet, built in 1972, $695,000. Looks like it was a great day when they took the pictures here. Looks like a lake house that you would go rent on a vacation or something like that. I'll show you where that is here real quick, just so you have the right reference for it. So again, that's the North Bend, Coos Bay area. Scrolling out a little bit more, just over here by Lakeside, right over by the other property that we looked at just a moment ago. Okay, a few last things here. Large lots and RVs, where are those going to be at? You can find those all along the Oregon coast. I will say though, where we were just looking, there's going to be a much higher concentration of homes with larger lots, and I'm categorizing large lots by 1 acre, so things that are 1 acre or more. And these properties often have shops or RV spots, properties that were designed for people that have RVs and boats and off-road vehicles and things like that. So find these properties anywhere. Highest concentration will be Florence to North Bend. Next thing, budget homes. Actually going to be in a very similar area. And what am I considering budget homes? Around $300,000. Average coastal price is probably like $450, maybe $500. In the bigger towns, it's more like $500, $550. So it's tough to get in around $300,000. Some people have that budget. They want to be by the coast. They can't afford a whole lot more than $300,000. You're going to find the highest concentration of properties in the $200,000 to $400,000 range in Coos Bay and North Bend. Now, ironically, their inventory is about as low as anywhere along the Oregon coast, but this is the most populous area along the Oregon coast here too. The combined towns, North Bend and Coos Bay, about 25,000 people. So there's a lot more homes there. They don't have a whole lot of homes that are on the market relative to their population, but because there's more homes there, you're still going to find more inventory. All right, a few more things here. New construction. Not going to find much new construction along the Oregon coast. We've only got a handful of builders. You have Lennar, which is a volume builder. Pretty much everybody else is going to be like mom and pop, like local Oregon builders. And you can see where they're building here. So there's a little bit of new construction going on Bandon, a little bit around Florence, a little bit around Newport, a little bit around Lincoln City, a little bit around Astoria. Very limited on the new construction. All right, retirement. Where are the retirement communities along the Oregon coast? Trick question. There are none. I think there's a couple. There's not currently anything listed on the market that falls within a retirement community. But yeah, that's the answer. There are very few actual dedicated 55 plus retirement communities like you would find like in a Florida or like maybe like in Arizona, for example. And the ones that don't have homes that come to the market very often. So the one thing I would say about that, the Oregon coast in general is sort of like a retirement community. You're going to find a lot of places where it's just 55 plus people. You know, it's not, this isn't something that's like mandated or zoned. That's just how it is because a lot of people go to the Oregon coast to retire. If you have more questions about that, we can dig into that with you a little bit more if you want to get in touch with us. And then finally, lots and land. You can find lots and land all up and down the Oregon coast. These are typically going to be individual lots. There's not a whole lot of like new big subdivisions. You know, there's really no new big subdivisions. What would we call big? Maybe 50 houses or more. Like in a big city like a Portland or a Salem, Eugene, Corvallis, like a 50 house subdivision or more would be a bigger subdivision. There's maybe a couple of those along the Oregon coast that are kind of like halfway through, and we might be talking more like 30 or 40 houses. Beyond that, a lot of the that have lots that are for sale that you can build in. Beyond that, it's just individual lots scattered throughout the Oregon coast. If you're thinking about building a house along the Oregon coast, we would be happy to help out. Biggest piece of advice I can give you: find a builder before you find a lot. If you're looking for a lot, you're putting the cart before the horse. Might not even be able to find a builder. Builders are very backed up. A lot of builders I talk to right now along the Oregon coast are a year out or so. So it could be tough to find a builder, and you just never know. You know, you might the lot that you choose might not be able to accommodate the type of house that you want to build on it. So really important. We see this mistake kind of a lot. We see a lot of people reaching out to us that are looking for lots, and we ask them if they're working with or have spoken to or at least looked up or looked at builders yet. I would say 90% of people or more say no. And again, if you're doing, I mean, it's all well and good to have some fun and shop online and look at lots and dream about building your dream home. But if you're not talking to a builder first, you're putting the cart before the horse. So if you have more questions about that, if you need help with that, really anything at all, if you're ready to take the next steps, if you want to move to the Oregon coast, that's what we're here for. You can call us, text us, email us. You can click the link below in the description if you want to hop into our calendar and schedule a Zoom call with us, which is typically the way a lot of people get started because we're mostly specializing in relocation, working with people coming from outside of the state. So usually a little meet and greet on a Zoom is one of the best ways to do it. If you don't like to do that, if you don't get in front of the camera, that's fine. We can just do a regular phone call too. And if this video helped you, if you liked it, give us a thumbs up. Lets us know we're doing a good job. And if you made it this far into this long video of me being super long-winded, then you should probably subscribe at this point. You're probably going to want to see more videos like this that are going to and designed to inform you about what it's like to live along the Oregon coast. So make sure and hit that subscribe button. And until next time, take care, everyone.